365 days ago, there was not a lot of optimism around the Toronto Blue Jays, but just a few months ago, the Jays were inches away from being World Series champions. There is a ton of pressure and a ton of optimism around the Jays heading into the 26th season, and a lot of that comes from what they were able to do with this lineup. So, no Bo Bichette. How is it going to look? Let's break down the position players for the Blue Jays as we start our Blue Jays season preview here on Couch Potato Diary. Like I said, that this team, it has been quite the journey the last year for Toronto to get to this point, but there's a lot of optimism around the Blue Jays coming into this season. So we're going to start our Blue Jays season preview looking at the lineup. We're then going to go into the pitching staff and further break down some things when it comes to X factors and all of that. But for this lineup, obviously, Vlad Guerrero Jr. in the middle of it is the straw that stirs the drink, right? And I do think that we have seen an official leveling up for Vladdy. I don't think he's going to be playoff Vladdy and he's going to hit 100 home runs or anything like that. But given how much pressure was on him in the postseason and how he lived up to every single moment in that playoff run, and then transitioning into the World Baseball Classic, extra base hit in every game, still playing with that fire, still playing with that passion. That's exhausting to do over 162 games, but I think that we have seen the Vlad Guerrero Jr. and pushing up on that ceiling that a lot of us thought he could get to, where he's an MVP candidate. I think him being plus 1,300 to be an MVP in the MLB this season is a little bit long. I think that is genuinely in his range of outcomes this season as he just puts on an MVP caliber performance for the Blue Jays. Remember, he was banged up for a little bit toward the back part of last season before they got into the playoffs. So I think that there is going to be a very big season coming from him. It's the rest of the lineup that obviously there are some question marks around, right? Because Bo Bichette leaves. He's now with the New York Mets. And I know he wasn't there for a lot of the playoff run, so a lot of people who did kind of jump along, it's like, okay, well, didn't really miss him. This guy almost led the majors in baseball despite missing a month in hits, which is a counting stat. That's insane that he was able to do that. So obviously missing that table setter at the top of your lineup is going to be impactful. But I do think that there is, again, an evolution, a stepping up, a leveling up, whatever you want to call it, with some of these players. It's just the one that kind of, the part of it with Bo being gone that fascinates me is what do they do in that two-hole. I didn't like it that Nathan Lucas was getting all of those at-bats, batting between Springer and Vlad as the postseason went along. I think he was a great story and it was cool, but I think there was a little bit too much out in his game. I think they probably should have moved Ernie Clement up there. But I also don't know if I'm trusting Ernie Clement in that spot over 162 games. So we'll see what they end up doing there. It's going to be a big rotation. This is going to be all over the place for Toronto. They said on the spring broadcast the other day, the Jays used something like 140 lineups last season, 140 different lineups last season. It's going to be that way again for Toronto here. So I'm really interested to see what they do in the two-hole. Leading off, George Springer was phenomenal last season. He's got a bobblehead of one of the great Blue Jay moments of the last 30 years, and really one of the great Blue Jay moments of all time, with the home run that sends this team to the World Series in Game 7 against the Seattle Mariners. There are a lot of people assuming that there is going to be a bit of regression here for him, and I think it would be insane to not assume that. He was playing close to an all-star level for most of last season. He did get banged up a little bit, but the dude's 37. That's going to happen. So I do think you have to bake in a little bit of regression, but I do think him being the designated hitter is going to be very helpful for him to just be able to focus on hitting and kind of save those legs a little bit more. So I think that's going to be a big thing for him, and I think he's going to have still a good year, but I don't think it's going to reach the levels of last season. The one guy who I think is really important that he is able to kind of get back to last year is Alejandro Kirk. He is the one, like Vladdy can do his thing. We'll see who's batting cleanup after that. And then Kirk kind of starts the lineup over again at 5 and gets it going for the bottom half of the lineup. His contact is incredible. His plate coverage is great. A little bit of pop, maybe not as much as we thought he was going to have when he came up and was an all-star initially, but he is a really important part of this lineup. I'm not saying you need to be back right around 300 or anything like that, but it can't be down at like 230 or something like that, where he was kind of residing over a couple of seasons before last year. I do think behind him, because it did seem like he wore down as the season went on, right? And then he has a really strong finish to the year and was good in the postseason. Unfortunate that he is the one who gets doubled off to close things out. But I'm excited for what he can be this year. I do think that we're going to see a little bit more Heineman. And I even think Brendan Valenzuela, who had a good spring, is going to make a few appearances to just kind of save some miles on Alejandro Kirk, because he's so important to the pitching staff also. But the big breakouts, I think, are coming with Varsho and with Barger. I talked about it in the team preview. I've talked about it in the season preview, where I think Barger is going to be one of the breakout stars of MLB. I think there's a world Addison Barger is an all-star this year. I wish there was some kind of a future bet that you could place on that. I think he has figured things out. He is an exit velocity king. He hits the ball really, really hard, and he has really found his way to be a pretty consistent Major League Baseball hitter. So I think he's going to have a great season this year. And for Varsho, said it before, he had a 45 home run, 120 RBI pace last year. Hit 235, but he was playing at that pace. He did get hurt, and that is what kind of slowed things up for him a little bit. But he's been incredible all spring long, and in a contract year for him, I think that this is going to be a really motivated and very, very good Daulton Varsho. X factor is obviously Okamoto, with the power numbers that he was able to put up in Japan. Didn't strike out a ton. Obviously, there is a bit of a gap between the NPB and Major League Baseball. So what does he provide? But again, he's going to be down in the 8 slot. There's going to be some power coming from this team down at the bottom of the order with him, with Sanchez this season. Also, Lucas down there as well. We'll see about Davis Schneider, if he's able to make the squad or not. Taping this on the Wednesday before the season. So haven't got that lineup news yet. But that is the last part of this, is we talk about how, there's going to be regression coming from all of these guys. Probably. Yeah, like I said, there is going to be probably a bit of a setback. The one thing that this team did so well last year that I think they'll do again this year, that they have a very, very smart hitting coach and that whole department of things. But with John Schneider and the rest of the staff, they put these guys in the best spot to succeed always. And so, yeah, maybe we are going to see them break the platoon a little bit more this year, with Barger against some lefties, with Varsho against some lefties, at least probably to start the season. But for guys like Lucas and Schneider and Sanchez, the reason you feel optimistic for them isn't because you think they're going to be great for 162. It's that for the 80, 90 games that they play this year, they're going to be put in the best positions to succeed. And that's where I think you feel really comfortable about this team, is that it's not just all these guys happen to be great at the same time. It's that Schneider, the analytics department, and everyone else in the organization figured out the best way to utilize all these guys against the best pitchers, which mixing and matching and all of that. And they have that variety again in this lineup, and that's why I have confidence that the lineup is going to be good. And then you look at some of the replacements that are coming. If someone gets hurt, Eloy Jimenez, there's some pop there. Obviously, we saw that in the spring. I don't think you're relying on him defensively a whole lot. Miles Straw, we haven't even talked about him, but as a runner and a defensive replacement, I think is going to help a lot of things out as well. And I think Josh Kashovich has something to say about how this season goes also. You just hear everything about his work ethic and how much people are raving about him. I know there's some concern about middle infield depth for this team, but I do think that if it comes down to it, this dude is going to be able to have a bit of an impact there for the Blue Jays. So that's what I think for the offense, for the upcoming season, and for the lineup. I didn't mention defensively. This team is probably taking a step forward defensively this year, with now Jimenez at shortstop, Clement up the middle. Okamoto can play a pretty solid third base as well, and you have a Gold Glove caliber first baseman in Vlad Guerrero Jr. Same thing behind the plate with Alejandro Kirk. So defensively, all throughout the field, you feel very, very good about where this team is at. What are you guys looking for from the Blue Jays offense this season? And am I off on anyone? But I'm feeling really optimistic about things. Let me know in the comments, and we can keep the conversation going there. If you are watching this on YouTube and want to bring Couch Potato Diary with you wherever you go, hit me up on the podcast. You can find it on, just search Couch Potato Diary on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.